Hello everybody, I'm Irmina Van Dyken, MD from out of the Doldrums. I'm a surgeon by trade, you guys know that, but my true passion is helping people just like you obtain optimum health by adopting a whole food, plant-based lifestyle. Today I'm here with the one and only Laurie Marbas.
Hi.
Dr. Marbas, who's here, she was speaking for the Vegetarian Society, and I was lucky enough to steal you away for a quick interview.
Oh, well, thank you. It's been an amazing trip so far.
Had a good time?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have one thing that stands out that you've done here that is your favorite?
You know, we hiked up to the top of the volcano and saw the sunrise, and that was
Nice.
pretty incredible. Other than getting up at 2:40 in the morning,
To get up there in time?
it was amazing, yes.
Good, good. Happy to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for those of you that don't know, Laurie is a plant-based physician. You're a family doctor, correct?
Yes, family medicine.
And where do you practice?
I practiced all over, but typically telemedicine for the last few years.
Awesome. And are you doing an entirely whole food plant-based lifestyle medicine practice, or is it kind of integrated?
Yeah, so over the last several years, I was doing regular family medicine and incorporating it into a general regular practice. As I became more involved in this type of movement and my work so far, so I started now just doing lifestyle medicine. So
Wow.
it's, but again, primarily the whole food plant-based diet is the foundation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And lifestyle medicine, you and I are both board certified by the American College of Lifestyle Medicine.
Yes.
We know it's a whole lot more than just food. What else is it? What is
Right.
lifestyle?
So everything that you would imagine that someone tells you to do something that's healthy. So sleeping, your stress levels, exercise of course is a big one, and your nutrition, but all the other things that come with that. So it's mindfulness, it's your relationships, it's your community, and just helping people understand how important all of those factors are together. And the more habits you actually adopt and build, the healthier you'll be.
Totally. So it's like a more holistic approach, so to speak. So I had the privilege of sitting in your talk the other night. It was wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all that information.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun to approach. Our talk was a little bit different than your normal, tell me about the science of a whole food plant-based diet, but I really wanted to show people going to have impact in their social circles. That influence is so very, very important.
Right, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about here a bit too, was I was shocked, you showed a figure, and hopefully we can put it up on this video too, but you showed a figure just about your circle of influence and the people. Can you tell us about that, and why is that so important?
Yeah, so I was reading, I'm a big fan of reading, probably wish I could read more than I do, but especially about habit change and what we can do to navigate that and help people understand how they themselves can adopt healthier habits or get rid of unhealthy habits.
Sure.
And in that process, I read a book called Connected, and it was, I actually found the book through a TED Talk, Dr. Christakis.
Okay.
And I hope I didn't butcher his name, but anyway, he's got an amazing TED Talk regarding social network science. And so what they found is that they did a huge study on the connectedness and if you think of it as a social contagion of obesity. So they used a Framingham Heart Study data had 50,000 data points. And what they found, because they took such meticulous records from 1948 on and multi-generations of families, they were able to make connections like your neighbor, your friend, who your colleagues were, your weight at the time. I mean, some amazing data. And they painstakingly did this, and they took people's BMI and they saw circles according to either female, male, they throw the connections. And over 32 years, you'll see this it's almost like a living organism. The system change over time, and those who are obese tend to get bigger, and their connections get larger as well, and they become more dense. And then those who have a normal BMI also condense, but their network stayed on the thinner side. And so what was incredible is to see this continual change. Obviously, it's more than just mimicking behavior, but we also spoke about social norms and acceptance of those in your circle. And it was really interesting science, but it could be healthy habits as well. So, if we're doctors in the community like you are here in Maui, and you are sharing this message, those networks that you're touching will also spur a change as well. So, but what they found is over and over again is that 3 degrees of influence. So after if you're my friend and your next friend, they can affect me. But after that, it kind of drops off. So if they're obese, I'm more likely to be obese. So my connection, like a spouse, is about 45%, increased risk. Then it drops down. I think it was 20 to 25%, and then it was like 5 or 10% that third degree. But it was pretty impressive to think people I don't even know could be influencing me.
Absolutely. And it's also impressive to think how much impact you can have if you don't think about it. You really impact so many people.
Right.
Yeah.
So very important.
So kind of on those same lines, would it be wrong or oversimplifying to say if you happen to be obese and you're hanging around other obese people, that's not a good health environment for you?
And so unfortunately, we tend to run in families, we adopt the same eating styles that they're eating. And so absolutely. So, thinking about your circles of influence. So if you have, like in business, they say surround yourself with people who have already done what you want to do.
Yes.
Same thing with health. So if you want to be healthier, surround yourself with people who are doing what you want to do. Is that maybe, or start your own. You can start a potluck, plant-based potluck. We've started doing that in Colorado. If you're join a walking or hiking, running club, you could join a gym. You could, look online, because even they found people 1,000 miles away can have influence because it's still part of what we consider a social norm. So when we do see those things, so even those online, and actually it's interesting, Facebook's been a wonderful place for me to meet actually many friends who've become in-person friends now, because we make a point of meeting in person and continue to work with each other and connect, and those people continue to fuel your desire to be healthy because you have these new connections.
Sure. So it seems to be very critical to kind of try to put yourself in situations or surround yourself with people that you want to be like, would be a good.
Choose your tribe wisely.
Choose your tribe wisely. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Absolutely.
One thing I wanted to talk about, Laurie, was your position right now as editor of a brand new medical journal.
Yes.
Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the fall of, when was that? 2017, winter? Yeah, it was December 2017. Scott Stoll, who was one of the founders of the Plantation Project, reached out to me along with Dan Purgis to see if we could start a new medical journal.
Yeah.
Well, none of us had ever launched a journal before. Sometimes ignorance is bliss, because you'll actually try things that you probably otherwise wouldn't have. So it was a lot of work, but we launched our journal, and it took about 9 months of planning. We had to find a way to publish because the commercial publishers were not interested in what we wanted to do. We wanted to be open access, because you pay taxes. Those taxes go to national grants and funding,
like the NIH,
right?
Yeah.
And I can't necessarily always have access to the studies that those were funded, even though I paid for it. You paid for it,
right?
Those should be open for me to see. Exactly. So it's about a $10 billion industry every year, the commercial publications. Yeah. So let's think about it. If you have the American Medical Association, the JAMA, their journal. So they, if they're Elsevier's, their commercial publisher, I think it's Elsevier, I can't remember exactly.
I think you're right, yeah.
But what happens is, so you have the editor-in-chief, you have all the work staff from the medical side. They do this for free, volunteering. They might get paid a small stipend, but it's probably not a whole lot.
Right.
And then you have all the researchers who are doing all the research. They apply for the grants, they do all the work, they do all the writing, they publish it in your journal. They don't get paid.
They don't get paid to publish.
Nope, they don't get paid to publish. It's prestigious for them, so they're eager to do it.
Yep.
And what happens is the commercial publishers, yes, they're paying for the magazine to go out and everything, but they'll also charge you fees from the society to actually run their publication. So even if you join the American Medical Association, you're still paying a fee to have access to that journal. So there's one revenue source. Then they're just selling the journal. You can buy individual articles.
Yep. That's
so there's all these things that go back to the commercial publisher. And so we were like, listen, we don't want it to cost anything for the author, and we don't want anything to hinder anybody from having access to vital information that can change a practice or change a life.
Right.
And so that's what we did. And so we self-published. We work with a group called in Simon Fraser University up in Canada, and they have a free manuscript software. And what that allows us to do, and there's 10,000 journals on it, by the way, to like an author would log in, they submit their paper, I can manage it going through, and then Dr. Kim Williams is our editor-in-chief. And so we built the policies, we put up the website, I designed the website. I hope everyone likes it. But all of that is something that needs to be done, and it's not for free. So then we also doing fundraising. So we have people who have actually donated money. We have also started, my idea as a physician is like, I always wish I had a publication to send patients to. So I said, well, why don't we take the science that we publish in the journal and let me interview those authors, and completely unbiased. I'm not going to edit anything. I'm not going to try and change what that science says, but allow them to share with us the exact science, what we should be able to do with it. I don't want that to be influenced by anyone or anything but other than those who actually did the science.
Sure.
And we don't want anything to be exaggerated. We want to know how much of this should I incorporate into my practice, or where does this lead? Maybe it's just to say, hey, this is just to spur other research that still needs to be done. Or maybe it's like, wow, this is so amazing, I need to be doing this in my practice, or my patients need to be aware of this. So we bring those articles to what we call we call it Digest for short, but you can go to Digest. I'll give you the links for everything.
I've seen it, yeah.
Yeah, Disease Reversal and Prevention Digest. There's nothing with a short name, but it allows us to take that and put it in lay terms, but then we also fill it with other amazing things like recipes, interviews with other successful people who've reversed their diabetes, weight loss. We've interviewed, you name it, Judd Brewer, who's an expert on mindfulness. He's also a plant-based physician in the East Coast. Some incredible things that we can do and share with those who need something like that. And they can also say, hey, take this to their doctor and say, have you seen this? I need you to read this, and maybe you can look at this journal and read some of those articles. That's another thing too. So the more we give access to patients to the information, hopefully they'll utilize it.
Absolutely. Patients and physicians, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you have one or maybe two articles from your journal that stick out in your mind that are like, whoa, this is life changer?
I would think so, for sure. There was one in our last edition. We're about to publish our third edition in February.
Okay.
We had a soft launch, our first one in September of last year, and we've done 2 editions since then. But in just this last one, there was a woman in Canada, her husband's a PhD, but she had pulmonary hypertension. So the arteries, for those of your audience who don't know, there's an artery between the heart and the lung called the pulmonary artery. And there's an idiopathic diagnosis. They don't know what caused it, but it's like having high blood pressure in that artery. And you can get heart failure and all sorts of issues. Typically, the degree that she had it is anywhere between 2 and 5 years of survival, 2 years without any type of treatment and 5 years with.
So it's a pretty grim diagnosis.
Yes, absolutely. And the medicine oftentimes can be worse than the actual
side effects.
The actual medication or the actual disease process. So she ended up gaining a significant amount of weight. She was over 100 pounds from when she started, from medications and fluid. She became diabetic. She lost vision. She became legally blind because of the side effect of one of the medications. And her kidney function started failing, and this close to being on dialysis. And she came across Forks Over Knives through some very interesting and fun things that she talks about. I've interviewed her before. And but what was amazing was she went on a whole food plant-based diet. Nothing else changed.
Okay.
And she lost 100 pounds. Her vision came back after 18 months. Yeah. And her pulmonary hypertension went from a very severe category to the very beginning stages, and has been that way for, I think we're closing in on 8 years. And that is unheard of. It's the first case ever. And so her husband wrote that up and submitted it as a case study. And hopefully that, looking at those who actually treat pulmonary hypertension, well, what's going on here? Is it the nitric oxide production from all the greens that she was eating? Because she took the Esselstyn approach, eating a lot of greens, absolutely, and low fat. And so those are those amazing things. That one certainly stands out. And there was another one, it was more of a survey type thing again, but they compared menopausal vegan women and non-vegan women, looking at what type of effects you're having from your menopause. And the vegan menopausal women had less hot flashes, less other side effects
wow.
of the natural course of menopause. So that was another interesting one. From
Was there any
standpoint.
plausibility as far as why they thought that? Was it lower estrogen?
You know, it's hard to say.
Hard to say.
They
Nobody
didn't
knows.
make any
Huh.
thoughts
That's
of it, but it's
interesting.
just like this certainly should be looked at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. So back to the pulmonary hypertension
Yes.
case, what's interesting is, you're right, I think in traditional medicine, you get that diagnosis, there's nobody talking about reversing it. So
No.
I think having that case report is amazing, but past that, having more people doing more research and more studies on that, if we get more data, that's very exciting.
And what's interesting is, that we published that in September, and what's happening is I've already received a couple of emails from patients or people who have pulmonary hypertension asking, what can I do? I know my doctor doesn't know anything about this.
Yep.
Can you share me your diet? And of course, we're not into the medicine on that end of it, but I'm encouraging them, well, here's some, opportunities to go look at other places, I'm trying to direct them to other resources. But that's exciting. So maybe just that one article, even if it just affected 2 lives, would be amazing.
That's huge, for sure.
Absolutely.
Wow, how exciting.
Yeah.
So that is a great journal. I can't wait to see what happens with it.
Yes,
for sure.
It's really it's a love and hate relationship. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun.
For sure. Yeah, I get it. One thing I really wanted to discuss with you, and we kind of touched on it a little bit, is behavior change and habits, etc. And how, as a person, just an average person, let's say you find out you watch Game Changers, or you watch some documentary and you say, yep, I want to go plant-based. I know that's what I want to do. How do I do that? And even you give it a good honest try, and you think it's only salad and you have iceberg lettuce, and then a day later you're back to your old habits. Like, what type of tricks do you have for people that want to undergo this, and how can you kind of give them a little bit of advice?
Absolutely. So one of my other projects is the Healthy Human Revolution, which you can find at healthyhumanrevolution.com. And the reason we decided to start this, it was my 2 partners, Anthony, who lost 160 pounds.
Yeah, I met him. He's wonderful.
Yes. And Jason lost 120.
Wow.
And we were, we each of us have our families and we've got them on board, but what about our friends and our neighbors and people that speak to us? So we're like, we need to actually do something and teach people the how-to, like you're describing, the behavior change. How do we deal with the social pressures? How do I shop? What I do when I travel?
Yeah.
All of these things that people have questions, but we have decades of experience to help. And so what we did is we teamed up also with Jean-Pierre, who's a celebrity trainer to people like Ellen DeGeneres, Emily Deschanel, those type of things. And then Chloe Stein, she's actually a chef that lost 70 pounds, a whole food plant-based chef. And we are doing conferences in different areas around the country. We had our first one in Denver in September. But online, we also have a free 7-day course, no obligation. You just go through it. It tells you everything you need to do a whole food plant-based diet well, how to shop, where to go, that type of thing.
Cool.
But as far as like the key things to strategize for an individual person, it's going to be making sure that your home's a safe zone. Because I find that if it's close by, you're probably going to eat it. So you'll definitely want to make sure
you
that
don't have junk food in the home. The ice cream's out of the freezer, that type of stuff.
Right. And people like, well, what about my spouse who wants this? I was like, well, then maybe it's time to sit down and have that conversation.
Yep.
And sometimes you may have to be in a household with, this is my shelf and this is your shelf, unfortunately. But I would say as a parent, because I have 3 grown children, I would absolutely say the kids have to eat the way I'm eating. Because that is their foundation. That is interest in their health. And your spouse wants to remain unhealthy, then so be it. And it might be a little bit, as you start changing and see, especially if you have health issues, if you start getting healthier, it spurs interest.
Yeah.
The other thing is planning when you go out. People go out to eat, look at the menus, think about what you can do. If you want to eat beforehand, but honestly, look online at their menu and call them and ask. Don't be afraid to have that conversation with the waiter. They are here to help. They want to serve you because they want you to come back. That's how they make their money.
Absolutely. And on that note, it's so funny when we go out to eat with friends, we do that, right? And we'll research, we'll call the chef. Oftentimes they love coming up with something unique. It's creative for them because they make the same thing every day. But most of the time, the dish we get out, all our friends are like, what's that? Ooh, I want that, So it's another way to influence, right? To be like, wow, look at what you're eating. That looks so good.
Open door for conversation.
Yes. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I would say, you know, that's the most important. Start out healthy eating in the morning. You've got to eat well. You know, wherever your first meal in the day, whenever that is, make sure it's a healthy one because it's going to influence the rest of your day.
Absolutely.
So really, really important.
Yeah. So healthy meal first of your day. What's your ideal healthy breakfast?
For me, I have always loved like hot cereals. I was raised on hot cereals, so it's like something it's just oatmeal, blueberries, falling sticks. But pumpkin seeds, banana, soy milk. That's my typical fare.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Very cool. So we haven't really talked much about exercise, and I know, you know, I think diet is the majority when it comes to overall health, but what about exercise? Can those be married together?
Absolutely. So I'm a huge fan of exercise. I love running myself, hiking, that type of thing. I do kickboxing, and you know, I've done other martial arts stuff. But the key factor is just doing what you love. If it's whatever activity that is, that might be, it might be ballroom dancing, it might be cycling, it might be anything that you would actually do. Maybe it's out, you know, going and playing with your kids. Make your household chores exercise. So there's so many ways to do that, and many of us work at a desk and sit. So I have a walking treadmill at home. But you know, I also have bands that you can use. You can do during your break, you know, do some calisthenics. There's so many things you can do. But I would say, you know, if you look at the science, it's about a 20% of the, if you're looking to be healthy, is about that. So I would say 80% diet, 20% exercise. So it's a big chunk. You don't want to ignore it. But if you're unable to exercise right now, start with a diet, and then you'll start hopefully feeling better to where you can actually go and do that. I would say definitely just go ahead and incorporate whatever type of exercise you can.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Really, really important.
So you have a family, and you alluded to they're all on board. Was that tough to kind of to institute it? Was it pretty tough? Like, how did it go about? Did you just come home one day and you're like, we're going plant-based?
Yeah, actually I did. So we literally overnight went plant-based, much to their chagrins, but they were 13, 15, and 18.
Wow.
So my daughter went off to college that end of that summer. So I had a little influence there, but not much.
Sure.
The boys, you know, she was never a milk drinker, so that was a good thing, but she loved cheese. My boys were at home, so they got to eat what I fed them.
Sure.
And we lived in a rural Colorado, so there wasn't going to be a whole lot of places for them to go eat healthy, so we did a lot of eating at home.
Right.
And so what we ended up doing over time is, like, when we go out, you can order what you want, but at home, this is what we're eating.
Okay.
And my husband ended up losing 70 pounds.
Wow.
And went on to do his first Ironman this last September.
Awesome.
And the boys, over the first year, you started seeing them stop ordering chicken, and they were ordering tofu. And this was, of course, me constantly educating, telling them about patients, showing them documentaries, all that stuff.
Right.
And now, you know, Gabe gets to be in high school. My youngest, who's 21 now, he's in college. But he was like, this is cool to be the only vegan in Waterville, Colorado as a kid, you know? So he kind of wore it. We gave him that confidence. Jonathan's just like, I'm just going to eat whatever makes me feel good, and whatever mom will make, I'm cool. So he's easy. He doesn't have much. So that's my 23-year-old. And now Emily has definitely come on board in the 100%, I'd say, in the last 3 to 4 years. And so that's been really fun. And she's in medical school, so it's really important that she take that message and share it with her patients.
Definitely.
So she's going to, I hope and pray, influence many more than I ever could.
For sure. Also, what's really hard is you can watch as many documentaries as you want, but it never really sinks in if it's not somebody you know, or, you know, somebody who you trust can tell you from firsthand experience or whatever. So I bet for you, coming home telling them about your patient that did this was super powerful.
Right. Especially after a while, I was getting baseball parents on board, because they were my patients, you know.
Right.
Gabe's baseball friends and colleagues were actually my patients that had high blood pressure and diabetes, so I got them on board. So it was fun to see those circles of close influence with my children. But when you said that about the reading the documentaries or movie stars going vegan, that's actually not much of, in some circles it might be more of an influence.
Right.
But for the majority of people, also in the book Connected, they discuss that. So there's the ideology of, let's say, someone who's on a plant-based diet that's a movie star or something, but they're not going to influence you like your neighbor or your sister or your best friend.
Right.
And actually peer groups are even more of an influence than those in your family. So it was some really interesting, I'm telling you, I wish everyone would read that book. I mean, it's it's not a book you'd read overnight. Like
Right.
you want to read chapter by chapter, kind
Digest
of
a little
digest
bit.
and maybe read it again.
Yeah.
But that is certainly amazing information, because that tells me that I need to tell my patient what you do matters.
Right.
Because you can save a life. I will never maybe meet this friend of yours, but you can save a life. And I've had that happen where I had a patient who actually emailed me a year or so ago and said, you know, I was influenced by you and Rifle. I went plant-based, and then the next thing I know is I have a Facebook friend who's suffering from lupus and she's not sure what to do. I send her all this plant-based information. She said thanks. I sent her my podcast and everything. And what happened was she didn't hear from her for a year. She ends up finding out a year later. She emails her and says, you know, thank you so much for this. I've reversed my lupus and lost 100 pounds. And now her friends that she's in her influence are already losing 70 pounds and other chronic diseases. So that's that effect of that 3 degrees of influence. So it wasn't me, it wasn't my friend, it was her friend and her friend. So there's that 3rd degree of influence, and it just continues down the pathway.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, it was really awesome. I was like, that alone would make my day. That's
Totally.
why you're doctoring.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, you save lives in the instant that there's an emergency, but these chronic diseases is what's killing 90% of us. It's going to be that chronic disease that sends someone into your office or an ER with, you know, a heart attack or a stroke. So if we can stop it in its tracks in the beginning,
before it gets too advanced.
Right.
Yeah, there's a talk that I give. It's called 10 Ways that a Plant-Based Diet Will Help You Avoid the Scalpel. And it's all about, you know, like you're saying, I see a lot of the downstream effects, like the late diabetes that have the wounds and that type of thing, dialysis, obesity. Obesity increases your risk of having complications in surgery no matter what. So it's so important.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's sad. Yeah, I would, you know, I tell my patients, I was like, you know, I want you to put me out of business because that's mean I've done my job well.
Definitely.
And I'd rather see you, you know, enjoying your family and living the life of purpose that you were here. God put you on this earth to live, than in my office worrying about your diabetes and your heart attack and your high blood pressure and all the side effects of medications and how you're going to afford it and you can't be productive at work. I mean, there's all these things. If we can just change a few key factors, what you're putting in your mouth every day and movement of your body and just a few other things, it's a different quality of life, and it's so hard to put into words.
Yeah. Agreed. So, Laurie, you are a woman who has many projects.
Yes.
You're definitely working on so much. What's in store? What's in the future? What do you have planned?
Yeah, so we're really, we're hoping by January to launch our own plant-based line, plant-based docs online.
Oh, is it the same entity as Healthy Human Revolution, or?
No, actually, it's a little bit differently. So this is Plant-Based Docs Online.
That's the name of the company.
That'll be the name of the practice. And
I love
so it'll be myself and Anthony, who's also a health coach, who is my partner in Healthy Human Revolution. And we'll use some of the actual information and materials from the Healthy Human Revolution in that practice.
Okay.
Just because we've already built it and everything.
Yeah.
But it's basically lifestyle medicine online. And as a physician, as you know, you have to be licensed in the state that you practice.
Right.
But on telemedicine, the way it works, wherever the patient's located at the time of the initiation of the call. So I'll be having video conferencing in a HIPAA compliant platform. And so that patient could live in Connecticut. I'm not licensed in Connecticut, but they could drive to New York, which I have a patient who does this, and to create that appointment with me.
Got it. Just the first time, and then you're good.
All times, actually. So wherever they are physically each time, they need to be located in a state that I'm licensed in.
This is going to be huge. You know that, right?
I hope so, because we're
It's
going to
be
be bringing
huge.
on other physicians.
That's what I was going to say. So once you get successful, I could see you're expanding.
Yeah, so we have 5 already online. So they're licensed. A few of them have the same license I do, but others, they have others as well. And they're lifestyle medicine, plant-based docs.
Wonderful.
People that I know personally that I have vetted.
Yes.
I will train if need be on how to do this safely online, because I've done it for 2 years. I brought it into a regular telemedicine platform, Doctors on Demand, and started using that. And so the incredible advantage of that is because I get constantly asked, where do I find a plant-based doctor? Just like the other night at my talk. What about, you know, more doctors here, plant-based? And I'm like, I can't help you because I'm not licensed here. I don't live here. You know, there's just so many things that people are reaching out and they want the information. So I consider us a consultant to their primary care. We're not going to be
Okay.
your primary care doctor.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to be a primary care doctor unless I'm there in person, personally,
Sure.
because I feel like you need hands-on.
Right.
But the important thing is that they have the opportunity to speak to someone about, you know, my doc made this comment that I'll have type 2 diabetes forever, or I'm going to be a pre-diabetic and there's no choice as I probably will be a type 2 diabetic. Those are conversations that you can have with someone like myself,
Right.
who understands that no, actually this process can be reversible in most cases, especially early on. You know, what about the high blood pressure? Maybe we can reduce medications and in many cases get you off completely. What about the weight loss? What about the rheumatoid arthritis, the lupus, all of these things, and help guide you and help you build those, you know, habits and understanding the importance of lifestyle medicine. Because if your doctor's not giving you it, let us help you with that. So that's what we're doing, and people will be able to find it easy and grow, and we'll see where it goes. I'm really excited about it. But, you know, there's some really interesting story how I got to telemedicine from regular practice, and I think it was meant to be because we're at, I think, a threshold that it should be able to take off.
For sure. And patients are looking for it, like you said, they're demanding it.
There is a demand. It's a niche market, but I think it'll continue to grow.
So this market, is it mostly going to be cash only, or is there any
Yeah.
outlet for reimbursement in the
Yeah,
future?
For sure. So, you know, the thing with insurance, it's really hard to get reimbursed.
Yeah.
And so right now it will be cash. We'll try to make it enough because it's going to cost money. You have the platform costs money, malpractice costs money. It
Yep.
costs me about $3,500 to $5,000 a year just to practice medicine,
Definitely.
malpractice insurance.
Yep.
And so there will be cash only, but what we can do is you can print off the receipt and then actually go ahead and try and get your reimbursement from your doctor, because we're still
Oh.
licensed physicians.
Right.
So, but you will have to do that and we won't, because
Right.
again, you'd have to hire
That's
a billing staff.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it. You have to have a
is.
business plan and all of that good stuff. So that's what we're doing
Right.
right now. We're actually literally in the crux of, we've found our platform. I've got my, you know, insurance on the roll, and then getting everything going, getting our informed consents and
Yeah.
all these things.
Oh,
So.
wow. So, guys, this is huge. We'll link it below, but keep an eye out because if you want medical advice, you want to do telemedicine, this will be a great outlet.
Yeah,
So,
and it'll all be on the Healthy Human Revolution.
Perfect.
That's where we'll announce it
Cool.
as well, for sure.
cool. That's
Yeah.
so exciting.
Thank you.
Well, what do you think? Should we go hiking?
I think so. I think we're in the
Okay.
middle of this beautiful place. We should definitely go
Yeah,
hiking.
so we are in the West Maui Mountains. This is a beautiful hike. If you get a chance, it's called 13 Crossings. Come do it. It's wonderful. We're going to go hike. So
We are.
thank you so much for your
thank
time,
you.
for
Appreciate
just
it.
being here and sharing your expertise and your knowledge. And it was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you inviting me on.
Absolutely. Well, that's it, guys. The wonderful Dr. Laurie Marbas. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, guys. If you want to show us some real support, subscribe. We love hearing from you, so please comment down below with what you enjoyed about this video. Give us suggestions on what you want to hear more about so we can help you live a healthier life. Until next time, guys. Aloha. Hello. Let's go hiking.